within an industrial setup. Within an industrial setup. Then what do you understand by industry? See, we are talking about industrial sociology. Now let us understand what is industry and what is sociology. Then we'll we combine both the terms and we'll try to understand what is industrial sociology in detail. For us, the given definition of any industry is that it is an economic sector producing goods and services. See, industry is not something, it is a household enterprise or something like that, but it is a huge economic sector producing goods and services. The main aim of the industry is to produce goods and services. And another objective of the industry is to work on profit motive, right? So therefore, the industry is an economic sector which produces goods and services, and these goods and services are being produced by the people. So the source of income of an industry determines which industry it is. So whatever product you are producing, that product will give the name of that particular industry. If you produce sugar, that will be sugar industry. If you produce machinery, that will be automobile or something like that, mechanical industry or something like that. So whatever the products you are giving out, that product name will be given to that particular industry. So we will have textile industries, healthcare industry, and so on and so forth. And the word industry is derived from industria, which means diligence. Diligence or sophisticated thing and hard work. So in economic context, it is a organized activity of a group of people or group of manufacturers and service providers to produce a particular kind of good or a service. And how about this sociology? Sociology is nothing but it is the science of society. It is a science of society. It is the interconnection, interaction between people in a given setting. Now, what is industrial sociology? Industrial sociology is nothing but the combination of both the industry and sociology. Why we are mixing sociology? I try to explain. Because sociology is nothing but it is the study of the society. It is science of the society. In the science, what we study about the society. So the knowledge about the study, about the society, how the society operates and how people interact with each other, how various types of groups are formed, how these groups influence the behavior of the people and what are the roles and expectations of the people, how their behaviors gets modified and how they are getting influenced, what are their roles, what are their functions, what are their obligations, and what are their objectives. All these will come together to form a society. So this society will give rise to the social setting for the industrial sociology. Because the people who are in the society only will come to work in the industry as well. So in industry, since it is a huge organization, it becomes a mini society. It is a mini society with a large number of people coming together and working together. So the social interactions are very significant and they influence and they make people interact with each other. They modify the behaviors. They make the people to be acceptable, to modify their behaviors, to be disciplined, to be controlled. So all these things will happen within the society. The same thing also will happen in the industry as well. That is why we talk about industrial sociology in this context, that the industry is a mini society and within which the behaviors of the people are studied and how these behaviors, motivations help the industry to grow and how their behaviors trigger the or influence the health of the industry. So this is what we are talking about. Now, industrial sociology. It is also called sociology of work or sociology of industrial society. It is the study of people's interaction in an industry, the study of motivation and behavior of people, and the hierarchy and flow of power, roles and responsibilities, group dynamics, and formal and informal communication are the crux of the subject matter of industrial sociology. So here, I like to explain a little bit about the group dynamics and formal and informal communication, and also behavior of people, hierarchy and flow of power. Let us examine each one in a brief way. So the study of motivation and behavior. See, an industry, if it has to work successfully and come into fully operational and make profits and give proper and work to the optimal level of the industry, then it needs the people work with complete motivation, and their motivated behavior helps the industry to grow. So to do that, to trigger their motivations, what kind of things are needed and how to modify how to make them behave in a certain manner so that their productivity will increase and industry will flourish. So for that matter, how different people from various cultures, from various caste, creed, religion, or various groups like this, how each group of people get motivated, and what are and how their needs are being addressed. That is how we have to study.
Madam, rename cheskora mero.
Entandi?
Rename cheskora. మీ నేమ్ ఇక్కడ కనపడట్లేదు.
నా నేమ్ కనపడట్లేదమ్మా?
రీనేమ్ చేసుకోండి మేడం.
ఎట్లా చేయాలి మరి?
ఇక్కడ రీనేమ్ అనే ఆప్షన్ చెప్పండి మేడం.
డాక్టర్ ఎం స్వర్ణలత అమ్మా.
ఓకే మేడం. స్వర్ణలత. ఓకే మేడం.
కాకతీయ యూనివర్సిటీ.
స్వర్ణలత.
ఎం స్వర్ణలత, కాకతీయ యూనివర్సిటీ.
Okay, madam. You can continue.
Okay. So each group of people will have their own kind of motivational triggers. So we have to identify what triggers their motivation at the best and how that motivation helps the industry to flourish. In order to understand this, you need to have sociological knowledge about those groups of people and how their motivational triggers can be triggered, activated, and help them to integrate their motivations into the objectives of the organization. That is how the sociology will help the industry to flourish and grow, and at the same time the individual also will grow alongside the industry. So that is how the industrial sociology helps to study the motivation and behavior of people, and also hierarchy and flow of power. Hierarchy means any organization will have a certain kind of hierarchy. It is like a pyramid. From top to bottom and bottom to top, there will be a structure which is like a triangle. And from top, at the topmost, we will have top management, middle level management, and lower management. And many organizations where large enterprises are involved, there will be several layers of managements will be there. And at each level, the management will be done according to the skill sets and the knowledge sets of the workers engaged in that particular level. So how to understand the hierarchy and how the flow of power is coming from top to bottom and bottom to top. To manage this also, we need to know how people behave in various sociological conditions and various cultural conditions. So that is how it gives out the management to deal with the industrial issues and problems. And roles and responsibilities. Each one will have their own kind of roles and responsibilities within the industrial setting. So in order to fix the role or responsibility and the role expectation and role performance, we need to know the demand of the job, what kind of skill sets or what kind of responsibilities are attached to that particular role, and that kind of roles to be given to that particular, to the suitable person. So in order to identify that suitable persons and in order to train that suitable person to modify his behavior according to the expected roles of the organization, the industrial sociology will seek to study and give solutions. And group dynamics. This is the very interesting area of industrial sociology where we study the group dynamics within the industry, because without knowing the dynamics, how the people, when people are alone, they behave in a certain manner, but when they come together and behave together, their attitudes and behaviors are completely different from the ones when they were alone. So in order to identify how group dynamics play, how each one will contribute or trigger the behavior of the other person. This is like a action and reaction process that goes circles and circles within the group. So we cannot predict many times, but when we study it in a scientific manner, we easily can assess how group dynamics play in the industrial sector and how these group dynamics can be channeled to contribute to the industry and make it flourish, and also how to motivate, mold the workers according to the industrial goals. That is how we try to make a point through industrial sociology. And formal and informal communication. What is formal and informal communication? Formal communication is the communication from top to bottom or from bottom to top, where we communicate with the boss or middle management or top level management from bottom to top or top to bottom. It is like an official channel, like writing letters, seeking permissions, sanctions, many other such other things, whichever we communicate through official manner. That is a formal communication, which is guided through rules and regulations. But what is unofficial or informal communication? This plays a major role in an industrial setting, because since we are human beings and heterogeneous and each individual is a unique and individual, we cannot group all people and scale them on a single measure, because each one will have their own kind of behaviors, set of ideas, and they try to do something, and these group dynamics go into chaos sometimes. But these informal communications help the employers to know how people are behaving, or doing, or feeling, or working, or producing, or having issues within the organization with the formal setup. That means when people are working in an industry, their personal opinions, their personal characters, their personal communication within with each other in the organization, like colleague conversation between colleagues, interaction between colleagues, personal interaction between colleague and employer, or subordinate and superiors, top level management, middle level management, and bottom level laymen, and all that. All this informal communication does matter, because this informal communication also invariably forms a formal thing. We have our own personal experiences. When we speak through a rule book, nothing will come out. But when we put aside the rule book for a while and talk to the other individual, just like a human to human, then things will get sorted out. It happens in every formal setting. So here also, this informal communication also does help to formalize the communication, to formalize the things, to sort out the problems, to sort out the issues, to address the problems of the employees, also address the issues of the employers. So in all these situations, informal communication also does matter. For example, a pat on the back, a small smile on the face of the employer when a subordinate does a good job, completed his task within the time, and when an employee showed an extraordinary skill. In such situations also, yes? Can I continue? In such situations also, the informal body language or informal cheerful smile of the boss will motivate the employee and will help him to work more, to contribute more for the benefit of the industry. So that is how informal communication does matter in an industrial setting. So we need to know how this informal communication is doing, is significant, how far it is significant in an industrial setting. It helps to better understand the structure of industry and inter and intra-industrial relations within a geopolitical and social environment. So that is how we speak about industrial sociology. So we will talk about how this industrial sociology as a discipline has been progressing through several years. In fact, it is a latest of all the branches of the sociological study. The development of industrial sociology as an independent subject area is very young. According to Delbert C. Miller, if we were to single out one statement that stamps the progress of industrial sociology up to and through 1947. Up to 1947 is a different picture, and through 1947, we should probably record the fact that sociologists were still struggling to define the field. That is why it is very difficult for us to find a particular definition, a pinpointed definition for industrial sociology, because it is still a growing field, and many of us will find the subject matter in industrial relations of commerce, or PMI, or earlier it was personal management, now also HRM, human resource management. In all these areas also, our field of study also will overlap. So it interconnects between all these things, and we have sociologist has to wade through all these subjects to find his subject matter as an industrial sociology. So that is difficult, a little bit difficult. So it is of a multidisciplinary in nature. So non-linear emergence of the subject. It is not developed as a linear from this point to this point or this point to this point. It is not developed like that. It has come from various points, and it was like a conglomeration of various disciplines, and it has taken from various subjects like industrial law, economics, public administration, and human resource management, and so on and so forth. So that is why it is like a multidisciplinary of nature. It has also its roots in industrial and organizational psychology, organizational theory, organizational behavior, and management, apart from the parent subject, sociology. So what are its relationship with other subjects means we find its relationship with many other disciplines. As I said earlier, it has relationship with economics, it has relationship with our own sociology, and relationship with psychology, relationship with management, and relationship with public administration, and so on and so forth. So it is also like, see, we people are having multiple dimensions. The same way, the sociological study also will consider, according to the context where we have to study and what issue we are studying, it decides. The study depends upon the context, and according to that concept, we take the dimension and study the issue. That is why it has several dimensions. And scope and objectives of industrial sociology. Hello, ఎంతసేపు ఉంటుందమ్మా ఇది? One hour, Andy? So here we have industrial scope and objectives of industrial sociology. So how the scope of the industrial sociology, what are the elements that goes into the industrial sociology, and how far it reaches, and what are the elements that we actually study under the industrial sociology. So it tries to study the role of the society and state in industrial development. Here it takes into account not only the people within the industry, but also the role of the society and also the state. See, without the state, there is no industry. The state intervention is must for industry to flourish in a democratic context. Not only in democracy, but even in socialist countries or communist countries, industry is an inevitable thing. To produce any good or service, industry is necessary. So whether it is a democratic setup or a communist setup or socialist setup, we need to have an industry. Human beings need to survive. To survive, they need an industry, because we live in a modern era where industry is a must and should. So the industry comes from society, and the society is being regulated by the state. So all the industries are regulated under the state control. That is why we need to know what is the role of the state and what is the role of the society for an industry to flourish and for an industry to develop. That is why the government makes industrial policies for smooth functioning and the development of the industries. Without any industrial policy, it will be all chaos. So to make an industrial policy, the role of the state is important. So it is always the state who took initiatives for the establishment and development of the industries, though it is private sector or public sector or private and public sector also. So in every case, the industrial policy will regulate the formulation, will regulate the establishment and development of the industries. So how the society, how the state is playing a role in the industrial sector and how it is contributing for the development of the industries, that is what becomes the crux of the problem for the study of the industrial sociology. And sometimes foreign policies also may impact the industrial environment. Suppose in these days, it is a globalized economy. In a globalized economy, we cannot produce for our own sake or for our own village or for our own sake. We produce things for the entire nation or for our entire state or for the international usage. So in that way, the international relations also does matter in the industrial policies. So while formulating industrial policies, we take into account the international relations within a particular country. So how, for example, if we take the example of India, in the Indian context, we need to consider what are our friendly countries and what are our enemy countries and what are our objectives and goals and what is our aim in establishing industrial relations with these countries. And strictly speaking, it is an open secret that there is no permanent enemy in the industry at international level. We have diplomatic relationships with every country, irrespective of the differences between various countries. Putting aside that differences, all the nations will establish and continue to do business in the international economic sector. So we need to consider all these things, how each country is looking at this particular product and how our industrial product is doing well in the industrial setup. we have to consider all these things. What is the demand for that product, and how much we can produce that, and what are the leverages in producing a particular product, and what are the benefits, subsidies, tax exemptions given by the other nations. So we need to consider all these things while formulating the import and export industrial policies. So that is how we look at all the national or international policies, and also we make our own industrial policy by considering all these national or international setups. So sometimes some foreign policies also impact the industrial environment in the country. For example, now the Russia and Ukraine war is going on. Now there is a embargo on the Russian oil by all the Western countries, right? So, but India is a friend of the Russia. Now India is purchasing the crude oil at a very cheaper rates. So who is at a winning situation? India is winning the situation by purchasing the oil with lower price. Here the foreign policy with the Russia and India, between Russia and India, made it possible India to get the oil at a cheaper price. Now that oil, that cheap oil will help our Indian economy to flourish, and most of our foreign currency has been saved, and that amount will be useful for the development of the nation. So that is how the foreign policies will also impact the industrial environment. If at all we need to purchase the oil with higher rates, probably our industrial environment might have ridden with financial crunches. But now the story is different. We have the oil at a cheaper prices, so that there is no financial crunch and the part of the oil, at least. To side, it accounts the historical developments of the industry. It also accounts for the, see, we are talking about scope of the industrial sociology. So we are talking about, when we are talking about scope of industrial sociology, we are looking at the role of the society and also the state of the state in a industrial, in formulating industrial policy. So now we look at, it also accounts what industrial sociology accounts the historical developments of the industry and its sociological influences. See, when an industry is established and developed, it not only developed by itself, but also that development will trickle down to the economy, and that economy will again influence the living styles of the people, living standards of the people, and also their the production of wealth, and finally national development. So this is all a chain of activities that helps a nation to grow abundantly. That is why when we look at an industrial development, it cannot be seen as a development of the industry alone, but also the development of the nation as well. That is why we speak about, when we speak about industrial development, it is also a national development. So it accounts the historical developments of the industry and its sociological influences. When a nation is developing, and this development will definitely bring in certain significant changes in the behaviors of the people, their way of eating, their way of dressing, their way of construction of buildings, roads, every other thing that is associated in the human ecology or human environment or human social environment will also gets influenced by the development of the industry. That is why that is very evident when we look at the industrially developed nations and non-industrial nations or industrially developing nations. It is very evident. Even if it is a glaring difference between, there is a glaring difference between rural economy and urban economy where the industries are located. That development is evidently seen. The nature of the people, the way they dress, the way they speak, their intellect, their social behaviors and everything, they all get influenced by their development of the industry. So they naturally will bring in a social change within that society. That is why we need to look into the sociological influences and helps predict future outcomes also. When we look at a change, or when something is going to change, or when something is happening, it is an inevitable thing. This social change is inevitable thing. It is like a river flowing. When the river is flowing, we cannot expect the same water when you step into the river next time. The same way, when we start an industry and it is keep on working, that influences, that brings in certain sociological changes, which you cannot stop, or which we cannot expect that it to be all the same when it got started. So that is why it helps it help predict future outcomes. We try to assess the situation, and based upon that situation, we will give some prediction. We will be able to give some prediction that because of these factors, these things are going to happen. Because earlier there were many studies were conducted with these circumstances and conditions, and based upon the studies, based upon those observations, we were able to predict that these are going to be the outcomes. When Corona pandemic was there, many sociologists have done several studies, and how because of Corona, what things have gone into the sociological setting, and what are the social changes that took place. It is an interesting note to tell that many child marriages have been conducted during Corona period, and also many childbirths were taken place. So this is, I cannot elaborate it here extensively, but these are the things that happened during Corona period. Also, many people got them isolated from their family, from their relatives, from every social setting because of the fear of Corona. So in a way, this Corona pandemic has clearly brought in a sociological change that was not possible without with any other pandemic or any other epidemic in or earlier situations in a known 50 or 40 or 50 years known history. So that is how certain things, when they are happening, they certainly will bring in certain changes. And based upon those studies, we would try to predict that because of these changes, these things might happen. These are all sociological things might change the situation in the society, right? Okay. And another example, if I want to quote, suppose in a broken family, when the family is not functioning, father is not caring, mother is not caring, think about the situation of the children, how they become after growing. Then many of the studies have proven that in a broken family where the attention, caring, nurturing was not given to the children properly by the parents, those children will definitely become delinquent, juvenile delinquents. So this delinquency is, it is not a definite condition, but most of the children have fallen victims of the juvenile delinquency because of the broken families. So broken family is the major contributing factor for the juvenile delinquency. You might be asking me that even if a fully functional family is there, in that case also certain children are becoming juvenile delinquents. What do you mean by juvenile delinquents? Juvenile delinquents are none but the children under the age of 14 years. When they commit a crime, they will be called as juvenile delinquents. These people, they are in issue with the law. So the law will not punish them. They will try to rehabilitate them. They will try to reform them, and they will try to educate them and try to make them a responsible individual when they grow up. So that is how juvenile delinquents are dealt with. But most of the juvenile delinquents who do pickpocketing, who do beggary, who do some crime with, and all those things, these people are usually coming from a broken family background or a disturbed family background. So this, when we look at a broken family, we can predict that the children from that kind of family might become, it is not a certainty, might become juvenile delinquents, because in some cases, fortunately, they may be fallen into right hands or right organizations and they become good citizens also. So we cannot completely judge that because of the broken family, this child invariably will become a juvenile delinquent. So we cannot say that. So it is a juvenile delinquency. Broken family is a major contributing factor for the juvenile delinquency or criminal behavior. So that is how we can make an assumption or we can predict the outcomes of the future. And it helps determine physical and socio-economic environment for the industrial development and vice versa. So when we look at industry or industrial development, the industrial sociology will help us to determine what are the physical conditions to be provided for and what are the socio-economic environments are being come into play with each other, and how these socio-economic environments will determine the development of the industry. For example, the socio-economic environments, which means it is a multicultural environment where people will come from different socio-economic backgrounds and they come together and work for the industry. And sometimes their cultural differences might be in opposites, might go in conflict. Then in such cases, the development of the industry will be at the crux. So to resolve such issues, industrial sociology will help to formulate proper mechanisms, proper rules and regulations to deal with multicultural issues. So that is how it helps to determine physical and socio-economic environment for the industrial development and also vice versa. And it looks at both formal and informal interpersonal relationships in the workplace. See, already I have told you about formal and informal interpersonal relationships. Without informal interrelationships, the workplace will be like a box. It is a cage. It is like an iron cage. We get suffocated because we can't breathe in. We can't breathe in properly when we are working in a tight environment where nobody is talking to you and nobody is caring about your emotions or your needs or your empathies or sympathies. Nobody is sympathizing you, empathizing you. Nobody is taking care of your emotions, everything. Because individuals are, after all, emotional beings. We come with a loaded emotions, but it is not a place to express our emotions already. But there are certain places where, in suppose canteens or hospitals or within the industrial organization, industrial canteen, industrial health unit, or sometimes within a casual conversation with the colleague or with the subordinate or superior, many things will come into the chat. So those charts will energize the industrial setting because we try to breathe out our emotions. These emotions, when we venting out our emotions, when we venting out our concerns, and when we feel that the other person is listening to us, when the other person is recognizing us, when the other person is having some attention towards us, then we feel satisfied and we try to work more. Or if the other person is not noticing you and he is not at all reciprocating your communication, then we ourselves will feel that it is very suffocating. I don't find any meaning working here. Nobody recognizes. Like that we feel. Not every time we want a promotion. Not every time we want a pay hike. It is only a recognition which can be happen through human interaction. And this human interaction is informal communication or interpersonal communication or informal relationships. So these informal relationships, though were not given in the rule book, but they play a significant role in formalizing the informal relationships and informalizing the official procedures. It provides, and these informal interpersonal relationships provides an understanding of how workers motivate to perform, training and career development, productivity of the industry, which is the ultimate goal of any enterprise, and also labor welfare measures, labor laws, and such other issues related to the workers are richly contributed by the study of industrial sociology. This is what happens when we take into consideration of the workers, of their performance, of their productivity, of their motivation things, of their cultural diversities, and give an attention to their training and career needs. Everything, when we take into consideration, naturally, all these things will help us to resolve industrial issues and also contribute for the development of the industry. That is why the industrial sociology will take into account all these things when making a study in the industry. And the social environments of the workers outside the industry also will affect the workplace behavior of the worker. How? How means when the social environments of the worker, we all know that workers will have different social environments. So the social environment of each worker will have their own kind of influence on the behavior of the workers. That is why the worker will carry that load of environmental influences, social environmental influences into the workplace as well. So somebody will do some puja on Fridays, and somebody will do namaz on Fridays, and somebody will chant prayers on Sundays. So that is how they try to bring in their cultural practice into work environment, though in their own personal spaces, but these cultural interactions also will play a major role in the industrial environment. So we need to take into consider these social environments of the workers also and their behaviors. And industrial sociology provides for such an understanding of the socio-cultural dynamics of the worker. So we try to study the socio-cultural dynamics of the worker as well. So when an issue is going on, we try to see what social group does he belong, which kind of motivations he is carrying. So we try to trigger those motivational triggers, motivational spots, and we try to get the work done. So that is how the socio-cultural dynamics of the worker will help the industrial policy, industrial managers to get the work done and make the industry to grow. So we have, though it sounds a little bit difficult for you, but it is necessary to know, like, how we study this industrial sociology. What are the approaches? What are the perspectives do we consider in studying the industrial sociology? You might feel it is strange or something new about these perspectives. What is this perspective? But this perspective is nothing but it is a framework given to you. Through that framework, you try to study the industrial sociology. So we have three types of approaches. One is functionalist approach, another one is conflict theory, and third one is interactions perspective. Now, let me explain. What is functionalist perspective? Here, functionalist perspective is also called as structural functionalist perspective, where we take industry as a structure and all the various organs of the industry are treated as the various organs of a human body. Suppose a human body, when it is treated as a structure, it has limbs, various limbs. All the limbs will work in coordination with the neurological system, and this neurological system will coordinate the activities of the limbs, and all these activities are intended to make the organism to live and flourish. The same way, the structure or functions of the industry also will be coordinated through various organs, and these functions are being performed through these organs, and this will help the industry to grow and develop. So this is the functionalist approach. And another approach is conflict approach. In this approach, we see that this conflict approach was given by Karl Marx. Here we look at the subject matter that there will be a conflict within the social setting. It is an inevitable thing. And this conflict is a compulsory and inevitable thing in any social setting. Somebody will have some kind of argument and some other will have different kind of argument. Let us say this is have or have nots. Always it is a struggle between haves and have nots. Those who have all the resources or power or money or something else which is privileged, those will have these privileges, they are haves, and those who doesn't have all these privileges will be have nots. So there is always a constant struggle between the haves and have nots. So this conflict perspective will help us understand the problems related with the conflicts within the organizational setting. What makes the people to struggle, and what is the reason behind these struggles, and how to resolve these struggles between the various groups of the organizations in an industry. So that is how the conflict theory works. And interactionist perspective. This interactionist perspective assumes that the interactions between the individuals are determined by various factors, and one is symbolic interactionism. This symbolic interaction is nothing but we not only speak with words, but also speak through our body language, through our gestures, and through many symbols. For example, if you want to know the cultural background of a particular individual, we look at what he is wearing. If he wears bindi, we can say that they belong to Hindu religion. If they doesn't wear a bindi, we can say some other religion. Or if we look at a symbol, like on their flags, somebody is wearing Om, if we can say that by seeing that symbol, we will be telling that this person belongs to Hindu religion. And somebody is wearing some green color flag with some numbers on it in Urdu or something like that, Persian language or Arabic language, then we can say that these people belong to some other community. And if somebody is doing something like God protects you, like some writings are there, Jesus is our God, like that, then we will assume that it is some other religion. So that is how various symbols, various lines of words will depict to what particular culture you belong to. That is how we speak through by wearing certain symbols to other individuals within the social setting. And also, many a times we need not speak to other individuals. By giving some gesture through our body, if we put together these two things and speak, what do you want? Then the other person will definitely come into offense, because we are talking rudely to him. Instead, with this pleasant smile on our face and what do you want? Then the other person will feel safe and try to express his views. So that is a difference between the same person is asking the same question, but through different gestures. So these gestures will symbolically give a meaning to the other person. So in a social setting, we try to speak or we try to give away our communication through various body gestures, through various symbols, and through various communications unspokenly, right? Even with gesture of the eye, the blink of the eye also does matter in communicating what we are thinking about to the other person. So that is what is symbolic interaction is. So that is interactions perspective speaks about. So it studies about the interactions between the people. So in a way, it is a macro level sociological study. It is not a bigger study. Always please remember that interactionist perspective is a macro level. Micro level study, not macro level. Very minute. The scope is very limited. But the structural functional study is a macro level, and conflict theory is also a macro level studies. These studies apply to bigger context, bigger groups, but interactions perspectives will be conducted on smaller groups and reductions will be taken. So that is how, through various perspectives, we look into the industrial sociology and we try to study the industrial sociology. So this is what is about the industrial sociology. To conclude, industrial sociology is nothing but the study of the society within a industrial setting, industrial organization. Okay. And it is a study of people's interaction in the industry. And it is the study of motivation, behavior, and the hierarchy and flow of power, roles, and responsibilities, group dynamics, and formal and informal communications as the crux of the subject matter of industrial sociology. So, it has an interdependency with many subjects, political science, because state is also coming into play. When we are talking about state, definitely we have to look at the political science. So many subjects like political science, economics, anthropology, law, and management sciences. Also sociology, also public administration, also psychology, and many more. This interdependency is not limited to any few subjects, but it is dependent on various factors and the focus of the study. Also, we study through different perspectives like functionalism, conflict perspective, interactions perspective, and several other things, whichever case it is needed. So that is how we study industrial sociology, and it becomes an inevitable study in a modern industrial sociology. And it is very, very dynamic subject, and it needs to be, it cannot be limited to a particular area of discipline, but is of a multidisciplinary nature. And fortunately, it is associated with the sociology, so that the industrial social setting can be studied extensively through the industrial sociology. And with this, I conclude. Thank you.